Hi, friends. Welcome to Take 3 Talks. I'm Steffi, and I'm going to be your host. In case you don't know me, maybe you should listen to our story episodes, which is part 1, 2, and 3. But I'm going to be your host today. And with me, I have Mei Jun, my co-host.
Hi guys, I'm Mei Jun. As Steffi says, I'm here when I'm asked to be. And I'm excited to actually get into today's topic.
Yes. So today we're going to be talking about couples therapy. So some of you guys on our Instagram, I asked you what episode you would love to hear next. And most of you guys asked for couples therapy. So we got a bunch of questions submitted by you guys, a bunch of questions we submitted ourselves. And we have not responded to these questions before, and we're just going to be super vulnerable. We're going to have a conversation. Some of these questions will be short answers, some of these questions will be long answers, and again, you can always find our show notes on take3studio.com, and that's where you'll be able to find our written form of the answers to these questions. And you can also submit more questions if you would like us to record a part 2 to couples therapy. Okay, so without further ado, welcome to this episode. Let's talk couples therapy.
Yeah, and before we even get into this, I just want to say that, to be honest, I am a little bit nervous about today's episode as well, because it's a new thing kind of for us to talk about couples therapy. Let's just dive right in, right?
Yes. So question number 1. When did we know we needed couples therapy, and what triggered it?
Okay. Getting right into it, huh? I think for me, how do we want to do this? Do you want to say like what I thought we needed, or just what I thought? When did I think that I needed it?
How about you do both?
Okay, we could do both. I think that the idea of couples therapy has always been lurking around, because we've been in a relationship for quite a while.
6 years.
6 years. But we never really took that leap until, I believe, life during the pandemic.
Yes.
So coronavirus kind of changed everyone's lives, obviously. And for us, it shifted a lot of things for us. We were already starting over from scratch after moving here from New York.
Yeah.
And working together was a completely new dynamic for us. When you work together, live together, that already stirs up a lot of conflict. But the pandemic kind of escalated everything tremendously.
Yeah, it's like the fractures that we talked about in the last episode.
Exactly. The fractures kind of started getting bigger and bigger, and more fractures started to happen.
Yeah.
And we were just getting into small arguments over nothing, I feel personally. And small things seemed so big for the other person, and we just didn't know why, and we didn't know how to deal with a lot of the conflict that we were getting into, a lot of the arguments. And it got to a point where we just needed expert advice on how to deal with these type of situations, and how to manage and navigate this new dynamic that we started having, work. Literally, we saw each other 24/7. We worked together. We, slept together. We wake up together. We raised a dog together. We couldn't see anybody else because of the pandemic, right? So we were trapped at home. And then, I think that was when we kind of knew that we needed some kind of support, right?
Yeah. So you would say that what triggered from your side would be COVID. That was the detonator.
The detonator. It's such a hard word for you, huh?
Yeah, all of these words are hard.
In Jamaica, they say detonator.
Okay, so that's your Jamaican lesson of the day.
Yes.
What I think, when did we know we needed couples therapy, and what triggered it? So I have been going to therapy personally for about 4 years now, and since 2016. Right in COVID, I actually took a break from therapy. I started doing Spanish therapy, and that stirred up a lot of things. But I believe that for me, what triggered it, and a lot of what you said was a lot of small things seemed really big, but a lot of these small things are really big childhood traumas that I had, that you had, that we didn't necessarily understand how to deal with. And I think a lot of what happened is, you know, the first time that we even, like, let's say, toyed the idea of couples therapy was in New York. I downloaded an app called Lasting, which I highly recommend to everybody. And Lasting is kind of like this mediator robot thing, where it gives you, like, for example, you're in the middle of a fight and it's like, okay, you guys both kind of need to, like, talk it out, and you're going to pull out the app, and the app acts as a mediator. It sounds really weird, but I promise you it's really good. And that's when we started kind of toying around with, like, okay, like, we've never been like, and let me take a step back. Like, Mayjun and I, you and I, we've never been, like, too prideful or ashamed of couples therapy. I think with you, maybe, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe with you, it's been more of like, instead of thinking of it as like couples therapy is like psychology and like a like psychological endeavor, is more like a coach, you know? So I think for you, that's kind of like the position you take it, instead of being like, instead of leaning into the stigma that comes with therapy. For you, it's more like having a coach experience. If I don't know if that's something that you would say.
That's actually pretty spot on.
Yeah.
Because, you know, as a table tennis player, I've, you know, always had a coach.
Yeah.
Someone I always looked up to for advice to improve on my, you know, my technique or my gameplay, whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
So I think with your help, I was able to shift my, I guess, frame of mind of what, you know, therapy is.
Yeah.
And making that more of like, okay, this is a coach for me to improve on my emotional capacity, my mental health overall, right? And kind of dig deep into like the reasons why I do this, do that, and all the trauma that you talk about.
Exactly. So I think, when did we know we needed couples therapy? I actually sat you down, I think it was in, I would say, a month, 2 months into COVID. And I really said, like, hey, I think I have changed a lot. I have matured a lot. I am a different woman than when we started dating. And I think even though I've made a lot of mistakes in the way that I used to be a really angry person. I'm still very impulsive, but I used to be very emotion first, thing second. And, you know, that got me into trouble, not only in our relationship, at work, and my friendships, and variety of places. But I was like, okay, I can't be the only one that's still just working on herself, because I think you have a lot of maturing to do. So really what triggered it was, for me, a collection of our childhood traumas, me being back in Ecuador, revisiting a lot of that, doing therapy in Spanish, you coming into terms and maturing a lot more, and also being really immature emotionally. And, you know, when I was getting really feisty, you would, you know, kind of add gas to the fire. And it was just a very childish and mature dynamic that we had when it came down to conflict. You were really bad at conflict. I was really, quote unquote, good at conflict. So
I literally ran away from conflict. Yeah. I would leave the apartment.
Yeah. And that was very traumatic for me. That was very traumatic for you. It was just overall not good. So what triggered it was really us realizing that we have a lot of childhood trauma. Our relationships are always like this mirror of who we were as children, and at least in my perspective. And I think that was what triggered it. We were starting to have a very toxic environment that wasn't necessarily our fault. It was a collection of childhood traumas, and also immaturity, and having really, really, really poor conflict management skills as a team.
Yeah, and just to close that out, I think that there were so many changes happening in our lives, like personally and within our relationship or within work, etc., that it was impossible for just us to maneuver all of that.
Yeah.
So that's where, again, we just needed
An extra set of hands.
someone,
Yeah.
to help us.
Yeah, exactly. We needed an extra set of hands so
Mhm.
that we could manage all of these new personalities and personas that we had.
Absolutely.
So I hope that answered number 1. Number 2, how do we feel when we, and I'm doing air quotes, admitted we needed help? How did you feel when you said, okay, shit, I am immature? I don't know if that's what you told yourself, but you know, I am immature at the way I deal conflict. Like, how did it feel admitting that?
I think for me, I can be very hard-headed and stubborn. So when I did come to the realization that, okay, I need to deal with these poor conflict management issues that I had head on, and the only way to do that is to find a professional, like therapist, that could help. So I think when we admitted that, or when I admitted that, I think it was a little bit of like a sigh of relief, and a little bit of like hope that, okay, like with this help, I'll be able to, instead of run away from situations like this, be able to deal with it better and not make it such an emotional, stressful thing when we do get into like small things or arguments or big things, whatever it is. I think that it was a great start for me to realize that this is going to be a good thing for me, good thing for us, by tackling this this head on.
So maybe do you say
be great.
that you felt relieved to not be alone in this?
Yeah, I think that sums it up really well. That we would be able to have this space, this neutral space for us to both.
Neutral is important.
Yeah, for us to both, kind of ground ourselves.
Yeah.
And discuss difficult topics without getting too personal, which is one of the issues that we were having.
Well, we're going to go into that.
We're going to go into that, yeah.
I felt completely terrified. I literally, like, the opposite of you. I was like, oh my God, what if we figure out and we realize that we can't be together? Like, or that we shouldn't be together, or that we're not good for each other, or... And this is part of stigma and part of blah, blah, blah. If someone's going to come tell you that this is not the way you should do things, and that's not really how therapy works, but it's more like the anxiety talking. But I was very much terrified that maybe we were going to realize that we're not that great for each other.
It's the story you were telling yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So that's how I felt when I admitted that we needed help, was shit. Maybe I didn't do such a good job alone, that now we need to kind of ask for a lifeguard. And what if in that process we realize that we're not that great for each other? So I felt relieved, but also burdened a bit.
That's fun.
And it's weird because I've been in therapy for a while, and I am such a proponent and literally like the biggest advisor for therapy, but it's terrifying. With therapy comes a lot of like unearthing a lot of things, and I think that's the key difference between personal therapy and couples therapy, that we'll get into it a little bit later. But yeah, my answer is I felt a little bit completely terrified, burdened, and relieved at the same time.
That's so interesting. Even with something like a question like this, we have completely contrasting feelings.
Yeah, 100%. So question number 3, how do we even get to thinking that was an option? So I think we kind of answered this a little bit, but In New York, when we started dating, I believe around 2 years into our relationship, I downloaded Lasting and I realized that we were having a really bad, again, it was the conflict management. And we needed to get to know each other more in terms of in terms of our loving, sexual relationship rather than just the friendship aspect, because we had been so long on a friendship level and on a kind of like mysterious, almost sexual tension, rather than like now we were like fully into the sexual part of it, not just the tension. So I think we got to thinking that was an option because I was exposed to therapy before, because of Lasting, and because we're privileged enough to be surrounded by people who have made therapy sound and look accessible to us. And we're also very privileged to have the opportunity to have the money to pay for it. That's how we thought was an option.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, I think, yeah, what you said, absolutely. Because, as you said, because of our exposure to New York,
Yeah,
and all other people who are, proud ambassadors of mental health and therapy, we knew that it was a positive thing. We knew that we had that as an option, and everything was digital.
mm-hmm.
So it was more about financially, are we able to afford it?
Yeah. Okay. So number 4, how do you get your significant other to agree or even toy with the idea? First, I had to trust that you would not take this as we need help, we're broken, or I want to break up with you and you're the worst thing in the whole wide world and let's go find something that will make you love you again, kind of thing. Yeah. So it was that trust, that like that friendship, that solid friendship, tolerance, respect that we have for each other, that made me feel like I could sit down with you and be like, hey, I think I have changed a lot. I think things have changed a lot. I think we need help. I think we need a mediator and a second person that's here to help us. And I know for a fact that I do not want to make the same mistakes I grew up seeing, or that you see in television, or that you see in pop culture, et cetera, et cetera. So how do you get your significant other to agree? I don't think you get someone else to agree to go to therapy, because it's a two-way street. I think if I were to give you, the listener, this was a question that was submitted to us. If I get you to give you any advice, it would be, if you're not ready to ask this person in person, maybe there's some sort of really aggressive conflict, or you don't know how to really tackle this with your partner, I would say maybe write them a letter. Ask them, what are the things that you feel? What are the things that you feel could get better with help?
What are the things that you need?
What are the things that you need? Exactly. What are the things that you could envision being better? And I think that's kind of how you toy with the idea. Another thing that I definitely would recommend is listening to Brené Brown's A Call to Courage on Netflix. I think it's a very mainstream, easy way to talk about mental health, to talk about vulnerability, to talk about respect, tolerance, love, and partnership and relationships in a way that doesn't necessarily say, hey, I need to go to therapy so that we can get better. Because maybe therapy is something that your partner is very scared of. So how do you get to toy with the idea? You honestly have to trust. And if there's no trust, you have to be the vulnerable person that says, absolutely, hey, maybe it's not starting with therapy. Maybe you start going to dance classes, or maybe you start going to a workout together, or maybe it's finding these other ways of acting like a couple in a neutral scenario that doesn't necessarily mean like it's just you and I sitting in a room with someone else taking notes. Not that that's how therapy looks like, but
yeah, I think that you've covered basically everything, everything that I had in mind. You touch upon, being honest, about being vulnerable about the situation, about the fact that therapy is not something that you force on someone. It's more about sharing your side of things and being vulnerable with that, about what is it that you think you need and why therapy is the thing that can help you and your relationship with your significant other. I love when you mentioned different ways of communicating that. If you're a person like me where sometimes things don't come out exactly the way I have it in my mind, I like writing it out. So maybe that's a great option of just writing it out on paper as in the form of a letter, even if it's a text, but in word format. That way you can get all your thoughts out and you don't put your significant other on the spot.
Yeah, maybe don't text it to them in case they're like, what, like, is she breaking up with me?
Oh, no.
Like,
But
you can write it and maybe read it
I think
out
writing
loud.
it is
I think letter is
Uh-huh.
better if you're going to give it to someone without, like,
Yeah.
talking about it.
Uh-huh.
At least a letter feels more intimate.
I think, well, it depends on how you position it. You say like, hey, these are my thoughts and this is my feeling, this is what I'm thinking. I would love to talk to you about it, but I wanted to get it to you in words first so that you have time to think about it.
Yeah.
So you don't put them on the spot, because that's
I
something
like that.
that's something that I struggle with too. When I get put on the spot, I don't know what I'm necessarily thinking of at the time, and I need time to process
Yeah.
the question or the scenario, the situation, what you're proposing to me, you know? So I think that's a great way to toy with the idea with your partner, just to let them process it in their own time.
Also, Lasting is a great app. I don't know if it's on Android as well as it is on Apple, but it's great because you can even ask, like, you can do little quizzes together. Like, if your partner hasn't responded to the questions, like, you can answer the next questions, and it makes it almost like it gamifies it a little bit. Something we did a lot in New York was going to workout classes together. I would, like, take you to the gym with me. I would, like, almost force upon things for us to do that were outside of our comfort zone. I think some of that can also be considered couples therapy, you know? Couples therapy doesn't have to just look like what you think the stigma of it looks like. Okay, so number 5, how do we find a therapist?
I think you can take this one.
No, you can do it.
So how did
Oh, how about how did you find the therapist? Because we didn't both go find a therapist. We each went to find a therapist without knowing that we were both looking for a therapist.
Okay,
so how about you do your side and I'll do my side?
Okay, so how did I find our couples therapist? So
Our now couples therapist.
Our current couples therapist, which we won't name. So for me, what I did was, so I'm a very word of mouth person. I trust, people that I trust. So I reached out to Alyssa
Pedersel, the founder.
Who's the yeah. Okay, you want to do that part? Because you love, whenever Alyssa comes up, you shine.
Go.
So Alyssa Pedersel, who is the founder, the boss lady of My Wellbeing, who's a therapist matchmaking company platform. So I reached out to her because she was your first therapist, and the way she changed your life. I haven't even met her, but in person. But the way she has changed your life, it made me trust her so much. So I wanted to reach out to her because she was someone that I trusted, and she recommended just one therapist. Actually, she based on what I had told her about How
did you reach out to her?
I reached out to her via email. I just sent her an email, like cold. It was like a cold email of, hey, Estefia and I are looking for a couples therapist because we need to, work on X, Y, Z.
Maybe we'll share the email in our show notes.
Yeah, why not? We wanted to work on this, and we just need some help with that. And because she knew who you were, and knew my personality to some extent, she knew what we were looking for. She recommended someone, and we met with him.
But okay, so
yeah,
you found she recommended him.
Yeah,
and this happened on a silo.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I had decided not to continue with my Spanish language therapy because it was too much at the moment for me. It lifted a lot and I was still processing it, but I knew that I needed accompaniment again. So I was looking for either going back to my current therapist, or finding a different one that maybe was a little bit cheaper on my price range. And so I did mywellbeing.com, Alyssa's company. I did their quiz for to match make with a therapist, just to see who I match made out of their entire like roster of therapists. And I happened to match make with this guy, him. And I was like, oh my God, like I read his profile, and he sends me an email because we both get alerted that we matched. And he sends me an email, and I'm like, oh my God, he literally like could be a freaking dream of a person for the both of us. So I get out of the toilet and I'm like, oh my God, I think I found our couples therapist. And you're like, oh my God, Alyssa, I actually asked Alyssa for a recommendation, and she gave me someone. And I was like, shut up. And we both share, and it's the same person. Literally the same person. Like the universe, like
we kind of knew.
Literally, like in that moment we're like, okay, like that's it. Like
we think he's the one. Like
what are the odds you get recommended this guy, I match make with this guy out of the whole roster of teams? So in that moment we sent him an email, and we met with him for our little digitally 15-minute or 20-minute like intro call. And we asked him his rate, and we got to know each other. He was like so our vibe, and
he was literally the perfect match.
Like, yeah, like Major is a little jealous that he's our couples therapist, because he wants him all for his own. All for
myself. No, we just knew right after we got off the call. We looked at each other and we said to each other, okay, he's the one. We're doing it.
Yeah.
From there, we just knew.
Yeah. We definitely 100% recommend Find My Wellbeing. That's their Instagram, and mywellbeing.com. Alyssa Pedersel, she's the founder. She's amazing. So go and find that. If you are in Ecuador and you're looking for a therapist, I also know that University of San Francisco has some therapists. I found my therapist through word of mouth. My Ecuadorian therapist, so I can share her contact as well.
We'll leave it in the show notes.
Yeah. Well, maybe I can't share her contact. Whatever. If you want to contact, just DM us, and I don't know. Maybe I'll share the contact then. Okay. So question number 6. Take 3 pays for it. What does that mean in terms of budget prioritization? So once we found out what his rate was, we kind of did the math, or like you kind of went back to the budget. Like, how did that go?
So
majoring from finance.
I majored from billing and finance here. So I went back and looked at our expenses per month and worked out what the max we could spend on therapy was. And then I had that number. I brought that to him and told him, and, you know, very transparently and honestly, like, hey, this is what we can afford right now. You know, we would love to work with you if you know, you can work with this budget.
Yeah.
And he was very flexible with that, which we
Most
loved.
therapists have a sliding scale.
Yeah. And he was like, absolutely. And we just started there. And something to point out too is that the reason why we even let Take 3 pay for it is because, you know, at the end of the day, Take 3 is nothing without Meijun and Estefi. And if Meijun and Estefi aren't okay, then, you know, Take 3 success will suffer. So, you know, that's why we made this a Take 3 expense, because it is our well-being. It is our emotional health. Yeah. And, you know,
if our companies used to pay for our health insurance, then why would our company not pay for our health insurance?
Exactly. So we shifted numbers around, and we made this work for our budget.
Yep. Yeah. And we just asked him, you know, how many, like, kind of like how our clients work with us. It's like, this is our budget, kind of how much can we get? And we then decided to do it twice a month. So we do it every 2 weeks. We don't do it every week, just because it doesn't fit in our budget. Yeah. So you can definitely do that. It's better to go to therapy once a month than to not go at all. And okay, so question number 7. How does couples therapy fit with our personal therapy journeys? So I guess, how do they, And I'd love for you to kind of take this one first. And how has it been since you're just starting with your personal therapy journey, your solo therapy journey? How has it been kind of doing this at the same time?
For me, I see couples therapy as the word you use, as an accompaniment to my personal therapy journey, because in my personal therapy, I work a lot on my my upbringing, the trauma that I personally went through as a kid, and how that affects the way I interact with people, the way I react to things, the way I react to conflict. So all of that I work on in my personally. In couples therapy, we focus and really hone in on aspects of our relationship and how we communicate with each other and how we deal with conflict as a team versus how I do it by myself. It's like very nuanced in that sense, and they definitely interconnect. But in couples therapy, we are able to learn tools that are in a way like middle ground for each other, and tools that improve the way we communicate with each other. And we get to talk about all the things that, that we're feeling together there, then and there. There's like, there's this, like, it's a safe space for both of us. And I have to say also that sometimes there are things in couples therapy that I'm not ready to talk about yet in couples therapy because I'm still working on in my personal therapy. Right? So in the personal therapy, I am able to just let everything out without the fear of, is it ready to talk about with Steffi yet? For example, or with other people.
Or is there something that Steffi needs to?
Or if it's something that has anything to do with the Steffi at all. So it's like really, really, in the personal therapy, it's really just focused on myself. Everything is me 100%, right? Some of that kind of bleeds into the couples therapy when it needs to be. So they're just supportive elements for each other. That's how I see it, and that's how I see them fitting in with each other,
Yeah.
What about you?
Would you say that, for example, like if we like put it in layman terms, when someone is training, for example, for table tennis, like you do trainings that are solo, like you, the racket, the ball with the machine, and then you do trainings that are
doubles.
With a team member, exactly, with a coach present, like actually with like the training,
Okay, I see.
Like,
I see
kinda
the
like
analogy.
a team event rather than one it being like on the personal therapy one. It's kind of like you have the machine and the coach present, but the coach is training various other people. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're almost there with that analogy. I think it's a perfect analogy for all sports people, especially because they can definitely relate to this, especially in like table tennis or just regular tennis that has singles and has doubles, right? In singles, you're primarily focusing on your own technique, on your own gameplay, how to improve that. What are the weaknesses in your game? Where does that weakness come from? And then you really focus on those weaknesses to improve your game. In doubles, you're playing as two people. That means, yeah, you can work on your own issues and stuff, but it's more about the issues that both of you...
The dynamic.
Exactly. What are the weaknesses that both of you are going through in this game? Because it's a completely different dynamic, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, what can you do better so that your partner can be better, right? What are the things that your partner can do to make the game easier for you?
Almost as if like, what is both of y'all's baggage bringing into the game, rather than just being it like an individual.
And then, how do you make it lighter for the both of you, so that you guys can reach this one goal of winning the game?
Yeah.
Right? So
I like that.
I think that's a good analogy to have for what the difference between couples therapy and individual therapy is.
Yeah, and to get to the Olympics, you need to learn how to do singles and doubles, right? Because
as a team,
doing it as a team, it also makes you a better single player. I love that. And then for me, how has their couples therapy like complemented my personal therapy journey? I think something that I like about couples therapy intermingling with my personal therapy is that in couples therapy, there's another person that gets to see the things I struggle with that you may not be able to see by yourself. So it's like, you know, when I'm trying not to interrupt you and like he realizes that I've been like literally almost like biting my nails, like holding on to my mouth, and like he sees like my like physical reactions of trying. It's something that you don't notice, for example, because you're in your head talking, right? And he's like, you know, Steffi did this and she really tried. So it's kind of like having like reinforcements and this safe space of us not having to do it alone, where in personal therapy, it's very much like you say, it's like about me. And even if I come and bend and shoot the shit about the things that you are doing, this therapy doesn't have the knowledge of who you are or how you act or what are the things that you are also struggling with. So it's like we have one person that kind of has a knowledge of the both of us and treats us both as equals, you know? So it's not just like Steffi said this, Meijun said this. It's like, okay, so how can we make it ours? And how can we, like you said, like either share tools or make each other notice that we are doing those things, or, you know, having someone that helps you take a step back. I think that's kind of like the compliment that couples therapy has to my personal therapy journey is that I know that I not only have someone that's on my team, but I also have someone that's on our team, you know?
Yeah.
So I have a personal coach and I have a team coach as someone that's specialized in both of our strengths.
Yes.
You know?
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that. So question number 8, what was our goal? And I say goal with air quotes, and the individual goals we had when we started therapy. I think our goal, like, or maybe I'll start with individual goal. Like my goal was for us to be able to find a language or construct a language that will not only aid in conflict, but also aid in love, in sex, in needs. Kind of have a teacher that helps us find that language. That was my primary individual goal, was being able to develop some sort of language that we can both communicate in and feel like, okay, I am verbally capable of communicating in this language that's not Steffi's language or Meijin's language. That was my primary individual goal, was kind of developing this language. And in terms of our goal, what I think our goal was having someone that helps us find a safe, neutral space where none of us are being judged.
Yeah, that's great. I think for me, my personal goal for couples therapy is so that I think both of us can have a space that we both feel heard, understood, not judged for the things we talk about or say in terms of our feelings, so that nothing backfires on us. I think that's something that I struggle with, where I have a huge fear that the things I say will come and bite me in the ass, right? And that struggle has caused me to not express my feelings and true emotions enough. And that was like my personal goal for us for you and for me to be able to just share.
My personal goal for me was...
Okay. Yeah, see, I'm doing it again, guys. You just witnessed it, where I'm thinking of someone else but myself. So my personal goal was so that I can feel heard and understood in a safe space.
What you thought our goal was?
Our goal, that I think, was for us to learn the tools to improve our communication and understanding of each other, to
build a safe space.
to not only build a safe space, but to have that strong relationship that that we need to have to continue to grow as individuals and as a couple. Because if we don't have that safe communication and understanding of each other and keep learning, then we're just going to be stagnant. So I wanted us to have that space to grow. Yeah.
So we can say our goal overall, and I don't know if we talked about this, like, or did we? I think before every session we kind of talk about what are our expectations, or is there something that's on our mind? Like, we always catch up in that way. Like, we always bring almost like our business hats whenever we are going into therapy, and we set like individual goals for each session. But overall, I can't remember if we were like, okay, we're going to do therapy so that we could do this, and that. Like, I don't think we wrote like a list of goals or anything.
I don't think we actually literally did that. No.
Yeah, I don't think so. But before every session, we kind of talk goals. So just super quickly to just recap that, our main goal was so that we could develop a language of communication that will allow us to build a safe space within our relationship on our own, without the need of necessarily having a couples therapist. Okay, so question number 9. How do you define its purpose and when this purpose is filled? So I think we've talked about this part. This was a question submitted by someone. We've talked about the purpose and how we kind of develop or define the purpose of therapy, but this came from us being like, okay, we clearly can't conflict, so we need to find a solution. So that was kind of the purpose, was we were really sucking at conflict and management and really communicating truly our needs. So that was a purpose. And when do we know the purpose is filled? I think we're still getting to know that. We're still kind of walking through that. And I think with therapy, it's an ongoing journey of purposes change, and not because our major purpose is communication and conflict and whatever. It doesn't mean that every session we talk about conflict or communication or whatever. Sometimes it's just sessions where we vent and shoot the shit and cry, and then somehow on a tangent we end up on a learning.
I think to add to that, I think the beautiful thing about therapy and couples therapy as well is that sometimes the progress that you're making, you don't like, oh, I want this progress. It just comes. It just happens.
It's not like a list of checkboxes.
It's not anything like that. No, it's you just, when you know that you're putting in the work, you will see that progress, whether it's 1% or 5%.
Yeah, it's not like, so I would say it's not like reading a book or a Kindle where you can see the percentage that you have even read or fulfilled or that you have left on each chapter of the book. It's more like when you read that book and you finish that book and you're like, oh, that was a great book. And then the next time that you're at a family meeting, you kind of bring back a paragraph or a quote or learning from that book. And you're like, I learned that because I read that book.
And again,
like, that's kind of how it works. It's not that like you have like a percentage filled and a purpose that you complete. It's more like you learn these tools, and then down the road when you apply it, you're like, oh, I got better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. To add to that, it's like, it's a feeling that you have.
It's something innate.
Yeah. You just feel, you're like, oh, I feel like I can bring this up to her when 2 months ago I cannot do that. Or it could be like, oh, I've felt Steffi's effort, like in trying to not interrupt me that much, whatever that is, right? I can see that. And you just feel that the effort is there, and you feel the difference, and you can see, you can just like, it's I don't know, you just know.
It's nuanced.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully that was helpful. Number 10, how has couples therapy helped, changed, or evolved our relationship? And this was a question that was asked a lot. So in my sense, I think couples therapy has helped, change, and evolved our relationship bleeps and like years. Like years, literally. I feel like I am actually dating a 30-year-old man that knows or wants to discover his emotions and wants to bring those up into the table, where 6 months ago, or wait, we started therapy in November, like 8-10 months ago, I didn't feel like I was dating someone who understood their emotions and was able to bring them to the table, period. So just that, like the fact that I know as a partner, as a woman, as a friend, that I don't need to worry about you because you got your emotions. You understand what the hell you're doing. You have a team, a therapist. You have spaces. You have tools. You're continuously learning. That has like catapulted our relationship, not only from a work standpoint, but from a loving standpoint. That couples therapy and personal therapy has given us certain tools that I don't think we would have ever gotten if we hadn't done it.
Absolutely. I think for me, it took a lot of the guessing game out of the relationship where, I remember when you told me, like, I can't understand what's going through your head or why you would react like that, or you're just leaving me to assume all these things. So that caused a lot of the conflict, right? When things happen and then we just react a specific way without each other understanding what the hell just happened. That, and then we would just have, left that in the air. But now that with couples therapy, we're able to talk about a lot of these things that happened, right? So that 100% has helped us and changed the way that we communicated. When those things happen. We have been able to, and are still continuing to work on that, where we are able to understand that when something happens, it's not out of malice, or there's a deeper level to it that we can talk about safely. And it's not just like, what the fuck? Like, why did she react like that? Or why did he do that?
And if you do want to ask those questions, we have learned the tools that have helped us evolve enough to be, hey, I'd love to catch up with this again in 45 minutes when we are more cold minded.
Exactly.
And be like, what the fuck was that?
And I think,
without it being like, what the, like, how do you not understand me?
That was what used to happen, where I would just literally just run away, right? But now we are able to literally, like, the simplest thing of communicating, we're able to, which seems so hard, we're able to do that, where we can tell each other, hey, I need a timeout, I need a break. Can we come back to this in 2 hours? Without feeling like we're getting left behind or unheard. We know and we trust that we're going to talk about this. And if 2 hours come, we feel like it's not an important thing, we both agree that, okay, this is something we can let go of, we are able to do that. So those are some of the tools that we've learned. So it definitely has changed the way we communicated and improved the way we deal with conflict. And again, just a caveat, it's a continuous working progress.
Yeah.
Nothing
sometimes
is
we act
perfect.
like we acted 10 months ago, and sometimes we act like Steffi from the future.
Yeah, but I think the important thing is that we're able to, I think we're learning more about each other and learning to trust each other more, to have those conversations, right? Before we didn't have that.
And we both know that we are putting the work.
Yeah.
Because we both show up to couples therapy.
We're both trying our best.
Every 2 weeks.
Exactly.
And we're like, okay, shit, I really fucked up 2 weeks ago, but how about we just, like, talk about it now? And we're both doing the work. So it's not like I feel like I'm not putting in the work or that you're not putting in the work. We both show up and we put in the work. So we trust that. Question number 11. Has couples therapy made us more or less codependent? This was a really good question that someone asked.
Wow. I think less. 100%.
I agree.
I don't think less. I know it definitely less, because before we were way too dependent on each other's emotions.
But
Mm-hmm. Lots of buts. But.
I feel like this was something that was very important for you and I to work on. I figured this codependency thing out because of therapy. Like, I didn't think I was codependent, and I was.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're way less codependent. Like, that's a very big fat lie. But I think my codependency really stemmed from moving to Ecuador and losing, quote unquote, my team, my acupuncturist, my therapist, my coffee guy, my friends, my
Soul Cycles.
I'd never went to Soul Cycle, my class pass, my, my flywheel, my, like, all of these things. Like, I quote unquote lost this team of people, and I then put all this pressure that you became this team. I lost my coworkers. I lost my boss. These are all big people that you don't count as your team members.
Yeah.
But once you lose them and you put all that pressure on one person, that's when you're like, oh, maybe I am quite codependent.
That's a very, very important insight.
That's the only reason why I think we're I am at least less codependent, because I've now realized, oh wait, maybe that's not that great.
That's so interesting, and for me, without getting in too deep, and so I can just mention that I'm a person that I love when people give me like affirmations and reinforcement, because my upbringing has been like that, where I do a lot of things to make people happy so that I do feel worthy. That I made this person happy, that's a great thing, and I did that. So, good for me. And I kind of, as I'm continuing to work on myself, I'm learning more and more that I don't need that to feel
worthy,
important and worthy. And I think that that's where my codependency came, where within our relationship, without me really knowing, right, I would do all these things for you and with you because you asked, so I couldn't say no. I didn't feel comfortable saying no, or I'll disappoint you, right? I would do this thing because it would make you happy, not necessarily make me happy, but I tricked myself into saying or thinking that if I made you happy, then I'm happy. I used to tell you that all the time.
Yeah.
Where if you're happy, I'm happy. That's all I want, but that's not true. But that's where
and also, what if I'm not happy? Have I ruined your life? Like that?
Exactly.
That's not possible.
That was starting to get very toxic.
Exactly.
So now with personal therapy and couples therapy, learning all these things,
we know that tools, it's not personal. We know that we can't codepend on each other because we need to be individuals.
Exactly.
We know that codependency doesn't show up just as I'm attached to the hip to someone. It shows up as in not holding each other accountable, letting you poke into my food after you said you don't want to try it. Yeah. It comes into me wanting to go to the pool with you all the time because I want you to be there when I can do these things alone. Right? So there's a lot of being codependent is not, I think, only this really negative thing. I think it's normal, especially for couples who've been together for so long. But I do think couples therapy has given us invaluable tools that have made us less codependent because we know more and appreciate more of our individuality and what makes us individuals.
Exactly.
Yeah. So question number 12. What are some of the tools we've learned in couples therapy that you'd like to share? So I'll start, and if there's any jump in, just because
you're good
for
at
the sake of time. Yeah. So number 1, I think coming up with a safe word, not just for sex, guys, but coming up with a safe word for when we're in conflict. So we're going into fight or flight mode. My eyesight's starting to kind of shut down and I'm starting to panic, I'm going into really angry mode. Just coming up with a safe word like banana or I can't do this right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like knowing that that is our safe sentence, you know, that means timeout. Number 2, creating a safe space.
Mm-hmm.
We have an ongoing meeting in our calendars. Yes, we're very anal. Every Saturday, we have a safe space, and this is something new that has really worked for us. It looks very different every time, but it's just 30 minutes or 45 minutes where you sit down and you actually
check in on each
other. And you know, it's going to be a non-judgmental space. It's safe. We make it so that one Saturday it's Meijun's safe space, so he gets to lead the format and he gets to make it into his own version of a safe space. And then the next week it's a Steffi safe space. So I definitely suggest safe space. So we talked safe word, safe space, also routines. Like finding space, for example, I do really well in the mornings. You do really well at nights. That doesn't mean that, you know, you should only wait until 9 p.m. to watch a movie with me, because I'm probably going to sleep watch it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not meaningful. So making space for a routine where we can be a couple and not just be workers, or not just be co-workers, or not just be bosses, and really make time for our relationship. So finding routines that work for you and I, and compromising. That's the tool number 4. I think compromising and being honest and willing to compromise on and drop some of the things that are not maybe as important.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what Safe Space has been really good for, because you don't have to react and go at something right then and there, because you know you have Saturdays at 4 p.m.
Yeah.
You can come in. If it's still really important for you, you write it down, and then you go down the list and you're like, okay, actually, this one is not as important to me right now. So, or forever. Like, I thought this was really important on Tuesday, but now Saturday things have changed. This is not as important. Maybe I can drop it.
I think that's super important. And that kind of goes into the next one, I think, which is that we're able to understand and respect each other's processing styles of how we process conflict. So one of the tools is that we understood that, you know, even though Steffi wants to deal with things then and there, Meijun needs time to process it. We're able to find a middle ground and deal with conflict like that. Yeah,
processing styles. I think tool number 5 is our individuality. Appreciate that individuality. Appreciate that we are different. Appreciate that we are not one bit similar in our conflict styles, our communication styles, our creative styles, our anything styles. We're completely different human beings, even though we've been in a relationship for 6 years. We build businesses together. We work very well. I think the last tool that I want to share is being able to think, okay, what is something that I'm doing, for example, in my work environment that is going really well with you and I, that we can incorporate into our relationship. It doesn't make it bad. It doesn't make it, you know, when you have more structure in your relationship, whether that is, you know, something that we've applied and I learned from my personal therapist is making sure you set a night where you say, okay, on Tuesdays, I want to have my nights off. Or, you know, on Mondays, Meijun has his night off, you know, or having mental health days. That's something that we've applied. When we have therapy, you know, Mondays is Meijun's therapy day. He gets to have that day off and do with it whatever he wants. Tuesdays is my therapy day. I get to do whatever I want with that day. Yeah, I think those are the tools, some of the tools, and we can do one whole episode if you guys are interested in it. Make sure you comment on TakeTheStudio.com in our show notes to let us know if you guys want us to share one episode of just tools. I think that would be really useful. Is there any other tools that you can think of?
I think
not that I can think of at the moment. Oh, sleeping apart.
Oh, yeah.
That was a really good tool.
Yeah.
Sometimes we felt like there was like, you know, too much hot air in between us and we needed that separate space. There's nothing wrong with, you know, deciding that you don't want to sleep together for a week or 2 or a month.
Yeah.
Or that you want to be at a different place.
That's totally okay.
Yeah. And that doesn't make a relationship bad. It doesn't mean we're in a fight. We did get that question when we were not in the same place. They were like, oh, are you guys in a fight? But no. So one of the tools is if you need your space make that physical space as well.
Yeah.
Not just make it like, oh, I need space, like just don't talk to me, because it's hard. Like you're always together, especially with COVID. I think that was the last tool that I can think of. Amazing. So question number 13. What was the most shocking thing we learned in couples therapy?
The most shocking thing. Someone asked this question. Wow. What was the most shocking thing? I don't know if there was anything that was shocking per se. I think there were a lot of, I think for me, if I was to answer this question, I think for me,
You are answering this question.
it was coming to the realization that there's so much that meets the eye, right? When it's like something as small as the dishes was not put correctly, there's so much for you. Like for me, it's such a small thing, right? Because of my upbringing. But for you, there's so much trauma that's behind this one act or inaction on my end, right? But I think that was the most, like, I guess, quote unquote, shocking thing for me to come to realization that, wow, that I should not take things so personally all the time, that there's always this like deep level of, trauma behind a conflict.
There's nuance.
There's so much nuance. Like for me, you always like, see me sitting down overthinking things, and then you're like, why are you overthinking? Why are you doing that? But for me, it's like that insecurity of like, I want to make sure this is perfect. I want to make sure that I come and show up as my best self, because growing up for me, I had to be the star student so that I don't get bullied, right? So there's always that thing. But when you think that something is really small for you, I think that I've learned to take a step back and be like, okay, like this small thing could mean something else for her. Let me ask her, what is this? Why did you react like that? Can you give me a better understanding, insight into what just happened, so that I can better understand it myself? So I think that was the most shocking thing for me, because before everything was just like black and white, right? Like the plate, okay, the plate's put in a different place. I'll put it back, but it's more than just that.
Why does this matter so much?
Why does this matter so much to you? Yeah. I think that was the most shocking thing for me, and the most beautiful thing I've learned during couples therapy.
Yeah.
What about you?
I think the most shocking thing that I learned in therapy was that I didn't need you to start this podcast, and that I could believe in myself. I think that's something that it was really hard for me to come to terms with, that this was not our dream, that this was my dream, and that I did not need you to do this, and that I did not need you to learn how to set up the mics. I did not need you to learn how to do Anchor, or I did not need you to figure out 3 hours of how to connect Apple Podcasts, because that's the most difficult thing, right? And that I did need you to edit my things. I think that was the most shocking thing, was that even though I'm a very individual, self-relying boss bitch, I was so codependent on you because I was so deadly afraid to fail alone. And when he asked me, why do you need him to make this dream happen? I was like, oh,
crickets.
Maybe I guess I don't. And the exercise was, what is the worst thing that could happen? What is the best thing that could happen? What would happen if you don't do this, etc., etc. But I think that was, to me, the most shocking, was realizing that I didn't need you to even fail creatively if I wanted to.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about therapy. You come to these realizations when you put in the work, right? As we mentioned before. And it feels shocking because it's right in front of you, the answers, and you're just figuring it out, and you're seeing it in a different light.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just find that, like, I think everything that we discover or realize in therapy is shocking. Also,
another really big shocking thing is that I fucking interrupt everybody, man. That's pretty shocking. Although I pretty much knew that part, but I realized how bad of a trait that was.
Hey, but
But we're learning. We're getting
learning,
better.
yeah.
Okay, so question number 14. How do we deal with the stigma that surrounds going to couples therapy? So I can give you a few examples. The first time that we told my parents that we were going to couples therapy. Yesterday, when you first told your mother that we go to couples therapy, and she was like, "Are you guys okay? How are you guys so young and need help?" Or the first time that, we said that we wanted to take space because that's something we learned in couples therapy, and people couldn't wrap their heads around that we were not fighting and they were actually living the best our relationships ever been by giving each other space. How do we deal with it? How do you deal with the stigma that comes down with it, knowing that from your culture at least, it's not that this is something that is praised or accepted or even
or a thing. I think people see it as a negative thing, right? Obviously.
Yeah.
Especially in my culture where they're like, oh, you guys need a mental doctor, quote unquote. That means something is wrong with you.
You're crazy.
Yeah, something like, what's wrong? Like, that's the stigma and that's the stereotype that, I've received. And that's why it took me so long until yesterday to kind of just tell my parents, like, hey, Steffi and I go to couples therapy because, not because we're in any kind of like issue or there's any big problems or we're not healthy, Parents always ask me if we're healthy. It's not because we're not healthy or we're not happy with each other. It's just sometimes you just need help to deal with things that you can't deal with individually. And I think that to deal with the stigma that surrounds it is to share your experience with it, right? Share your personal experience with it. And that's the only way to fight that stigma. If more people talk about therapy as a normal thing, just as like going to the bathroom or going to see your physician or going to see your annual doctor or whatever that is, to go in for a checkup, check in on yourself physically, you also have to check in on yourself mentally. If more people talk about it, that's how you deal with the stigma. So for me, I think the way to deal with the stigma, you just have to talk about it and share your own growth and your own process with people. For me, when I talked to my mom, I was like, I had to like really reinforce her, like nothing is wrong, multiple times.
So I guess, do you deal with the stigma by reassuring people that nothing's wrong with you?
I think it's a bit of reassuring that, yeah, nothing's wrong with me. This is normal. Like, sometimes you just need someone to talk to. Kind of give them analogies of what therapy is. Kind of like what you said about the analogy you used of table tennis, right?
Yeah.
Expressing it and sharing it in a way that they can understand. Because sometimes
making it relatable.
Exactly. Making it relatable for people. So, yeah, I think my answer is sharing your experience, making it relatable for people, and just reassuring them that this is a normal thing and it's not because there's any issues with you. Okay.
The way I deal with the stigma, I think with a very practical example, since I agree with everything you say, everything you said, not everything you said. A very practical example is my parents were like, what do you want for Christmas? What do you want for Christmas? What do you want for Christmas? Do you want an iPhone? Do you want the new thing? La 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 la. And I didn't want anything. I asked for 12 sessions to my therapist, and I was very straightforward. My therapy costs X. I want you guys to give me 12 sessions, one per month. You guys either decide to pay that half-seas, decide to not, whatever it is. I don't care. You want to give me something? Pay for my therapy. That's the way I deal with the stigma. I make them realize and I make them accept, and I don't let them question whether this is something I need or not. Mm-hmm. And it's about responding and saying, therapy is very important for me. Mm-hmm. And therapy is very important for my well-being. So I decide to do this, and you have no place for judgment.
Yeah.
And just leaving it as that, and recommending therapy to everybody I know. So question number 15. What is one thing you would tell younger Meijun and Steffi now knowing what you know and having the tools you have?
Wow. This is a deep one too. I think that for me, I would I would tell myself that.
Us. Meijun and Steffi.
Oh, tell like both of us.
If you were able to sit down with 2015 us who decided to start dating,
Mm-hmm.
what would you tell us?
I think that I would tell us to trust each other more than we've it's okay to trust each other more than we think we need to. And that it's important to let each other know what's going on in our heads rather than expecting the other person to understand us, because that's impossible, right? I think that's something that I would tell us, that just talk about it, talk it through. It's safe to do so. Trust the next person, and that you won't be judged, that your voice is important, and that whatever you are feeling, you shouldn't feel ashamed to feel it, because you have the support of your partner, of your significant other. I think that's what I would tell us, knowing what we had gone through.
A tough question. I think I would say that it's okay, that we don't need to have it all figured out, that we're so young, that there's so much life ahead, that even though we may not know all the answers, that, like you say all the time, we'll hustle through, and we'll always, 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 always remember that we're there for each other, and that we are always best friends first. And I think I would repeat what you said, which is, you don't need to change who you are in order for this person to love you, whether that is your appearance, whether that is how you think, whether that is how you speak. But you also don't need to expect that this other person knows exactly who you are if you don't really know who you are yet. And that is okay. So don't assume that this person already knows what you're thinking. Don't assume that this person knows what you're feeling. Don't assume that this person knows that you like that or that you don't like that. Don't assume that this person understands your love language or your conflict style. Not because you've known each other for 5 years. It means that you've known so much, because 10 years of knowing each other now, 10 years of knowledge, me, knows that there's so much nuance and context to our actions and our thoughts.
100%.
What is number 16? What is one thing you would say to someone or a couple that is reluctant to seek help and decides to call it quits before seeking therapy? With this, then this by no means come from a judgmental place. If you decided to call it quits before you seek therapy, if you decided that you didn't want to ask for help, like, there's literally no judgment here. This is just a question. What would you tell that couple or that person?
I think I would tell the couple. Okay, this is what I would say. If you guys feel like there is a light at the end of your relationship tunnel, a positive light where you do want to be with this person, you do want to continue to grow and learn and live together and be harmonious and understand each other more and understand how to deal with, problems or conflict, and feel loved and heard and all of that good stuff, then that's a reason to seek couples therapy. If you know that you want all that stuff, but you don't know how to yet, you don't know what the next step is. I think the next step is to find help, because if you've come to a realization that that's what you want, but you don't know how to do it, but you want it, I think couples therapy is a good first step to take.
Asking someone to teach you.
Asking someone to teach you, acknowledging that you need help, and then asking for help.
Yeah.
To what you said, there's no judgment. It's go at your own pace, do it when you're ready, but just understand that that's an option there for you.
I think I would say the love is really hard, and the love is not enough, and that loving someone and being obsessed and wanting someone and feeling passion and loving sex with that other person and loving the trips and loving each other's families and having the same like level or status or money, whatever it is, it's not enough. And that love is really actually fucking hard. Relationships are really freaking hard. And they're exhausting. And they're not 50-50. They're not 80-20. They're not anything. They're not a formula that someone else has figured out. And this is your journey. And that if there is at least 1 ounce of will, then there's a way. And that whether that is therapy, whether that is dance classes, whether that is learning your love languages and trying that out, whether that is listening to really good Brene Brown podcasts and talking about it while you paint and drink a glass of wine or a cup of coffee, that is also therapy. So yeah, relationships are really hard. If there's a will, there's a way. That's what I would tell them. And if you decide that that's not something that you want and that this person is just definitely not worth your time, then I would say you have the right to walk away. And that if there's some sort of abuse, mental, emotional, physical abuse, then you should be walking away. Whether that is something that you feel like you can do or something that you feel like you shouldn't do, know that there is someone always out there that wants to help you and wants to help you get out of whatever it is that you don't want to be in anymore. Okay. So question number 17.
Last but not least.
The last but not least, exactly. Has our goal, and I say with air quotes, goal, changed since we first started? Where are we in our journey right now?
Our goal has not changed. I think that this is such a simple question, but it's so hard at the same time. Okay, so I don't think our overall goal or objective has changed, which is to continue to learn more about each other and find that safe space, right? To construct that safe space, to be able to just naturally have better communication and respect for each other. So in terms of that, no, it hasn't changed, I don't think. But, smaller mini objectives during our journey come up. And I think that's the cool thing about therapy, is that we find these little things that we want to work on and improve on, and then it happens. But the most beautiful part about it is that this journey is continuous. There's no okay, you stop here and you're done. Just like learning, you never stop learning, right? And that's how I see it. So in terms of where we are in our journey, I think that we're just riding this wave that is couples therapy, of continuing to learn tools to deal with conflict, learn tools to express our feelings in a way that both of us understand each other more, so that there's no guessing game or assumptions or false expectations of each other. I think that's where we are in our journey right now, is just continuing to do that and unpacking our own traumas and sharing that with each other, so that we can continue to grow as individuals and as a couple. I think that's where we are right now. Always strive for 1% progress, guys.
I think our goal has not changed, because my goal has always been to be a better partner and show up to be better. And I think I'm trying my best that I can today. And I'm trying really hard. And that is enough. So I don't think our goal has changed. Where are we in the journey right now? I very cheesily want to say that we're exactly where we need to be. And I think we're at the best place we've ever been. And I think I've never felt more close to someone. I've never felt more understood by someone. I've never felt more in love with myself. I've never felt more confident in myself. I've never felt more whole within myself. And I've never felt more like I'm walking alongside someone rather than ahead or behind someone. So I think that's where we are in our journey. I think we're finally, and hopefully we'll continue, but I think right now, I think we're holding each other's hands through this thing we call life. And I hope, it's my only romantic, very rom-commy girl, and I hope we can only keep walking alongside each other. Even if one day that progress does not look like 1%. Even if that progress sometimes looks like negative 15,000. Knowing and having the kind heart that we're both trying our best and that we're both holy, as in like WHOLY.
You missed an L.
Holy? Fuck. WHOLLY?
I believe so.
I don't think so. That's wrong.
Let's Google this.
Fact check that. That we're more like wholesomely walking together alongside one another. And that's, I think, where we are. So I think couples therapy is the best thing and the best decision we've ever made for each other and for ourselves and for just our overall life, for becoming better parents one day, if that's what's in our cards, for becoming better partners, for growing old better and in a more kind-hearted earth. I really think that couples therapy has catapulted our relationship, our compassion, our love, our respect, our tolerance, our conflict. And I think it's made me and you a better human. So, yeah, is there anything that you want to say before we close out this episode? Like, to close out this episode, and before I give you guys all the juicy nitty-gritty details of how to make this podcast better.
I think we covered a lot. I had a very great time discussing all of these answers for these questions. I think I just want to end it with saying that, I appreciate you for all the effort and work that you are putting in to yourself and, also in couples therapy. You're doing amazing. You're doing great. And I see that. And I'm just excited for our future, as you put it, holding hands and continuing the walk. So yeah, I want to let you know that you're doing awesome. So please remember that. And for all of you out there, just know that, just by showing up and putting your best foot forward, that's enough. And, don't wait too long to ask for help, It's okay to ask for help. And it's not a sign of weakness,
It's actually a sign of strength.
It's a sign of strength, absolutely. And yeah, we always say this is, we're doing our best. We're trying our best, and our best is enough. And
as long as you're putting in the work.
Yeah, just remember that. So I think I just want to leave everyone with that. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for coming. Mental health is really hard. Anxiety, depression, happiness, they are really hard. And we will continue to have really uncomfortable, vulnerable conversations. I really want to thank every single one of you for being here, for listening to us, for sticking through with this long episode, and for asking questions. And if you guys are ever looking to leave us comments, reviews, it supports us so much. It helps us so much. Go into Apple Podcast, leave us a review, rate, and go to take3studio.com, look through the show notes, go into our Instagram at Take3Studio, and let us know what your thoughts were on this episode. We hope that we were able to at least shine a little bit of light and destigmatize mental health just a little bit. Remember that everything we've talked about, we have linked. Hopefully, I'll be able to share also our favorite episodes that have helped us also realize that we needed help. And by episodes, I mean podcast episodes that we've consumed. And yeah, I think you guys are all doing our best. Make sure that you're showing up for yourself as much as you want to show up for others. So subscribe, comment, like, follow, any of the things, because that's the only way that I'll know that you guys are really into Take 3 Talks. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you guys next Monday.
Adios.
Bye, friends.